is a world I want. It is impossible to see two worlds. It is impossible. It is impossible to see two worlds. It is impossible. It is impossible to see two worlds. Beyond this world, there is a world I want. My mind holds only what I think with God. I'm Miracle Willie, forgiveness teacher from the Ozarks, downstream from Buffalo Creek, from my home, almost into Oklahoma, but just barely into Missouri still. Okay, here on Friday, May the 24th of 2024, lesson 145, we're reading from the A Course in Miracles. So we're reading from the version that's printed by Foundation for Inner Peace. And we're to take 5 minutes in the morning and 5 minutes at night and hang out with this idea, my mind holds only what I think with God. And I would encourage you to take a breath as you say, my mind holds only what I think with God. Inhale and then exhale, and say it again as you inhale. And do that, maybe do it 10 times. And if you breathe about the same speed I do, that'll be, a couple minutes, more or less. And then gauge, let that kind of be the gauge. And then, don't necessarily keep counting. I sometimes do count with my fingers. I don't move them, but I kind of put a little tension in it. And then I can kind of feel the tension. And I just know that I need to go through all 10 fingers 3 times. And I kind of do that sometimes. I'm trying to give you some things that I do that makes it easy without using a clock. My mind holds only what I think with God. Hang out with 5 minutes with that, and then don't count after that and say, beyond this world, there is a world I want. Maybe take a breath with that one, maybe through a few breaths. And then remember the next idea. And keep your book close by so you can peek if you need to. It is impossible to see two worlds. And then hang out with that idea for a little bit. And then you need to spend at least, I'd say, in order to do the lessons properly, you have to spend at least 6 or 7 minutes. And if you spent 10, that'd be great. But anyway, but 6 or 7's fine. But he did want us to hang out with the idea, my mind holds only what I think with God, for 5 minutes, morning and evening. And then throughout the day, he wants us every hour of the day to tell ourselves, my mind holds only what I think with God. Beyond this world, there is a world I want. It is impossible to see two worlds. And that'll be our review today. Let's go look in our text reading, the time of rebirth. And as you're turning there, let's see what's going on. Oh, and that's in chapter 15, the holy instant. The time of rebirth is Roman numeral 10. And let's see what's going on out of holidays and observances. Asparagus Day. Asparagus officinalis is the genus and species. Some old standbys are Mary Washington and Martha Washington varieties, but those are male and female. They're about 50% each. Purple Passion's another nice one that a lot of people like to grow, but it's also male and female. If you want an all-male one, which won't make seeds, so more of the energy goes into what you're eating. And that variety would be a Jersey Giant. It's a hybrid variety that's an all-male variety. And when you're planting your asparagus, plant it about 12 inches deep is what most people tell you. Spread the roots out, and when it pops, put a little dirt over it, a couple inches. When it comes up through that, put a little bit more dirt around it until it makes it back to ground level. And by then, you've filled it back in with dirt. And that's your best way. Your roots will be deep in the ground. And then don't harvest for the first spring or the second spring. And the third spring, as long as they're pretty good size, you can harvest. And after that, harvest as much as you like. Okay, so that's asparagus. Let's see. pH for asparagus is about 6.5 to 7. Perfect gardens soil. I've heard some people put salt on asparagus. I don't try it. I'm thinking about sprinkling my friend Jerry's ashes on it, because that's kind of, I imagine that highly, I think it's going to be real high lime, but he wanted me to sprinkle his ashes on my garden. So I'm thinking about doing that on some asparagus patch. Aviation Maintenance Technician Day, Brothers Day. All you brothers, thank you for joining me, brothers and sisters. Carb Day, that's Friday before the Indy 500, getting those carbs all ready for racing. Don't Fry Day, watch out for the sun, don't burn for the summer. Heat Safety Awareness Day, same thing. An International Tierra Day, International Women's Day for Peace and Disarmament. That's a nice thing. We should, matter of fact, my son-in-law Joe one time said if women ran the world, we probably wouldn't have wars. They're much more inclined to the Cherokee had the women make the decisions when they went to war. A lot of those Iroquois tribes, it was the women who made that decision. So International Women's Day for Peace and Disarmament. We all ought to follow our more gentle, feminine side. National Cooler Day, kicking off for summer. National Death Busters Day. That's really safe driving for Memorial Day weekend. But I'm thinking of it from another way of looking at it, Death Busters. We're busting death. We're realizing there is no death. National Escargot Day, snails. National Road Trip Day, time to take a road trip. National Title Track Day, or Title Track Appreciation Day. Pick some songs you like and just sit back and listen. A lot of people use that as a major meditation. Scavenger Hunt Day and World Schizophrenia Awareness Day. And Carmine Jewel Bush Cherry out of Edible Landscaping. The Carmine Jewel, let's see what it says about the Carmine Jewel Bush Cherry. And it is a Prunus cerasus and fruticosa. It's a cross. And he's going to explain that in here. Carmine Jewel is part of a group of the best tasting bush cherries. The dark red, almost black fruits are sweet with very high nutritional content of superfood status. Carmine Jewel is adaptable, low maintenance with high pest resistance, although it is more leaf spot susceptible than North Star in Virginia. Height 6 to 8 feet. Originally from Dr. Les Kerr in Canada and the University of Saskatchewan. Carmine Jewel is a cross of Prunus cerasus, which is a sour cherry, and Prunus fruticosa, which is a dwarf ground cherry. Introduced in 1999, it is a new addition to a list of top edible landscape plants. Very hardy, zones 2 through 7. Okay, the Carmine Jewel Bush Cherry. Okay, now let's go take a look at our reading. And again, let's keep in our mind today, my mind holds only what I think with God. I think of that like when you're straining for fish, the water goes through, but the fish catch it. Well, we want our minds to only catch the thoughts of God. Let everything else go on through. My mind holds only what I think with God. In other words, just let judgments go. Don't hold any guilt towards yourself or anyone, and you'll be having the thoughts of God. Beyond this world, there is a world I want. It is impossible to see two worlds. The time of rebirth. It is in your power, in time, to delay the perfect union of the Father and the Son. For in this world, the attraction of guilt does stand between them. The guilt stands between the attraction of the Father and the Son. Neither time nor season means anything in eternity. But here it is the Holy Spirit's function to use both time and season and time, both, though not as the ego uses them. This is the season when you would celebrate my birth into the world. I expect she got this during the Christmas season, Helen, when she penned this. Yet you know not how to celebrate my birth into the world. Let the Holy Spirit teach you, and let me celebrate your birth through him. The only gift I can accept of you is the gift I gave to you. Release me as I choose your own release. The time of Christ we celebrate together, for it has no meaning if we are apart. 2. The holy instant is truly the time of Christ, for in this liberating instant no guilt is laid upon the Son of God, and his unlimited power is thus restored to him. What other gift can you offer me, when only this I choose to offer you? And to see me is to see me in everyone, and offer everyone the gift you offer me. I am as incapable of receiving sacrifice as God is, and every sacrifice you ask of yourself, you ask of me. Learn now that sacrifice of any kind is nothing but a limitation imposed on giving, and by this limitation, you have limited acceptance of the gift I offer you. We don't need guilt. We don't need the idea of sacrifice. We who are one cannot give separately. When you are willing to accept our relationship as real, yours and God's, yours and Christ's, guilt will hold no attraction for you. When you are willing to accept our relationship as real, guilt will hold no attraction for you. For in our union, you will accept all our brothers. The gift of union is the only gift that I was born to give. Give it to me that I may have it. The time of Christ is the time appointed for the gift of freedom, offered to everyone. Can you offer freedom to everyone? And by your acceptance of it, you offer it to everyone. Paragraph 4. It is in your power to make this season holy, for it is in your power to make the time of Christ be now. It is possible to do this all at once because there is but one shift in perception that is necessary, for you made but one mistake. It seems like many, but it is all the same. For though the ego takes many forms, it is always the same idea. What is not love is always fear and nothing else. What is not love is always fear and nothing else. Paragraph 5. It is not necessary to follow fear through all the circuitous routes by which it burrows underground and hides in darkness to emerge in forms quite different from what it is. Yet it is necessary to examine each one as long as you would retain the principle that governs all of them. When you're willing to regard them not as separate but as different manifestations of the same idea, and one you do not want, they go together. The idea is simply this: you believe it is possible to be host to the ego or hostage to God. Host, live for the ego, and be a hostage, you're in prison with God's will. You think of God's will as sacrifice, as pain, as a burden, a hostage. So when you are willing to regard them not as separate but as different manifestations of the same idea, and one you do not want, they go together. The idea is simply this: you believe it is possible to be host to the ego or hostage to God. This is the choice you think you have, and the decision you believe that you must make. You see no other alternatives, for you cannot accept the fact that sacrifice gets nothing. Sacrifice is so essential to your thought system that salvation apart from sacrifice means nothing to you. Remember, he wants us to have complete freedom, no sacrifice. Your confusion of sacrifice and love is so profound that you cannot conceive of love without sacrifice. Again on that sentence. Your confusion of sacrifice and love is so profound that you cannot conceive of love without sacrifice. And it is this that you must look upon. Sacrifice is attack, not love. If you would accept but this one idea, your fear of love would vanish. Guilt cannot last when the idea of sacrifice has been removed. Let's look at that again. If this one idea, our fear of love, would vanish. It is this you must look upon. Sacrifice is attack, not love. If you would accept but this one idea, your fear of love would vanish. Guilt cannot last when the idea of sacrifice has been removed. For if there is sacrifice, someone must pay and someone must get. And the only question that remains is, how much is the price? And for getting what? 6. As host to the ego, you believe that you can give all your guilt away whenever you want, and thereby purchase peace. As host to the ego, you believe that you can give all your guilt away whenever you want, and thereby purchase peace. You know, pushing people away, that's the ego's way of looking at it. And the payment does not seem to be yours. While it is obvious that the ego does demand payment, it never seems to be demanding it of you. You are unwilling to recognize that the ego which you invited is treacherous only to those who think they are its host. The ego will never let you perceive this, since this recognition would make it homeless. For when the recognition dawns clearly, you will not be deceived by any form the ego takes to protect itself from your sight. Each form will be recognized as but a cover for the only idea that hides behind them all, that love demands sacrifice, and is therefore inseparable from attack and fear, and that guilt is the price of love, which must be paid by fear. Paragraph 7. How fearful then has God become to you? And how great a sacrifice do you believe His love demands? For total love would demand total sacrifice. And so the ego seems to demand less of you than God, and of the two is judged as the lesser of two evils, one to be feared a little, perhaps, but the other to be destroyed. For you see love as destructive, and your only question is, who is to be destroyed, you or another? You seek to answer this question in your special relationships, in which you seem to be both destroyer and destroyed in part, but able to be neither completely. Again on that, you seek to answer this question. Okay, let's back up one more. For you see love as destructive, and your only question is, who is to be destroyed, you or another? You seek to answer this question in your special relationships, in which you seem to be both destroyer and destroyed in part, but able to be neither completely. And this you think saves you from God, whose total love would completely destroy you. Paragraph 8. You think that everyone outside yourself demands your sacrifice, but you do not see that only you demand sacrifice, and only of yourself. Yet the demand of sacrifice is so savage and so fearful that you cannot accept it where it is. The real price of not accepting this has been so great that you have given God away rather than look at it. For if God would demand total sacrifice of you, it seems safer to project Him outward and away from you and not be host to Him. To Him you ascribe the ego's treachery, inviting it to take His place to protect you from Him. and you do not recognize that it is what you invited in that would destroy you, and does demand total sacrifice. No partial sacrifice will appease this savage guest, for it is an invader who but seems to offer kindness, but always to make the sacrifice complete. You know, the thing I'd like to just mention in all this, you may have to read this 2 or 3 times to really get a deeper sense of what he's trying to say. But remember, he wants us to revel in our freedom of choice. We want to see our brothers and sisters as free to even make a mistake. That's okay. We're invulnerable. They can't hurt us. Let's look at them through the eyes of love and give them complete freedom. And don't judge them. Don't require them to sacrifice something in order to be good in your mind. And don't think that you're having to sacrifice anything by them being their freedom. Everything works in perfect order. Okay, the last paragraph, 9, and that'll finish this section. You will not succeed in being partial hostage to the ego, for it keeps no bargains and would leave you nothing. Nor can you be partial host to it. You must choose between total freedom and total bondage, for there are no alternatives but these. You have tried many compromises in the attempt to avoid recognizing the one decision you must make, and yet it is the recognition of the decision, just as it is, that makes the decision so easy. We just want to learn to just accept things just the way they are, just as it is. Salvation is simple being of God, and therefore very easy to understand. Just let things be. Do not try to project it from you and see it outside yourself. In you are both the question and the answer, the demand for sacrifice and the peace of God. You can either demand sacrifice and tell people they can't be free around you, or you can let people be free and just ask God for another way to see it. And don't see guilt at any rate, because that's what removes the peace from us. Okay, well, I think we're ready for closing. Be sure to, I'll kick you off on our lesson here today with our song, and you can kind of go right on into it. Yesterday was the Persian word sola, and we'll use that word again today. But I wanted to mention that in Persia, there's also a lot of Arabic-speaking people, and one of the words you'll find in Persia that many people know is Assalamu alaikum, peace be unto you. And if someone says peace be unto you, you would say alaikum assalam back to them. So if they say Assalamu alaikum, you would say alaikum assalam, peace be unto you. So anyway, but sola. So you can go ahead and get into a comfortable meditation posture that you can stay for maybe 10 minutes. And of course, I'm only going to get you started for the first minute or two. My mind holds only what I think with God. My mind holds only what I think with God. Beyond this world, there is a world I want. Beyond this world, there is a world I want. It is impossible to see two worlds. It is impossible. It is impossible to see two worlds. It is impossible. My mind holds only what I think with God. My mind holds only what I think with God. My mind holds only what I think with God. My mind holds only what I think with God. My mind holds only what I think with God. Beyond this world, there is a world I want. Beyond this world, there is a world I want. It is impossible to see two worlds. It is impossible. It is impossible to see two worlds. It is impossible. Thank you all so much for joining me here on the banks of Buffalo Creek. My mind holds only what I think with God. Beyond this world, there is a world I want. It is impossible to see two worlds. See the world of fear, the world of love, the world of guilt, where someone's wrong, or the peace of God Himself, where everyone's free to follow their own inner guidance. Remember, every choice anyone ever makes is just because they're trying to be happy, trying to find God, whether they know it or not. My mind holds only what I think with God. Beyond this world, there is a world I want. It is impossible to see two worlds. Assalamu alaikum, or salam. Alaikum assalam. Solh. My mind holds only what I think with God. Beyond this world, there is a world I want. It is impossible to see two worlds. Solh.